Two dudes, watching cartoons, watching cartoons, watching cartoons, watching cartoons. Two dudes watching cartoons, 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 watching cartoons, watching cartoons, watching cartoons.
Welcome back to Two Dudes Watch Cartoons, the podcast where two dudes, that is us, watch cartoons. My name is Evan.
And my name is Alex. We got a special guest here. We've already started. I'm going to introduce him at the top. We have the winner of Big Brother Canada Season 10, Kevin Jacobs. Kevin, thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited. As I was just mentioning, big fan. We've talked back and forth. And just on a whim, I asked you if you wanted to cover this with us. And you were like, hell yes. And I was like, I love that response. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'm fired up to be the third dude today.
Yeah.
You nailed it with the topic. I'm a GDT fanboy. I am also a GDT, I don't want to say obsessive, because I do find him sometimes to be too much, but I really, really love the man unconditionally with all of his flaws.
Perfect. Well, today we are talking about Guillermo Del Toro's Pinocchio movie on Netflix. Before we do get into that, I need to fan a little over Big Brother. So we are going to take just a quick Big Brother. I have a couple questions for you. First off, I know. I knew you were ready for it. Kevin, first off, I have only played Big Brother online with like other nerds, not like in a serious sense. But what I love about your game is, I'm not going to lie, in my mind, it's like textbook. You do what you should go out to Big Brother and want to do. You were on the block week 1 in the last week, correct? That's the only times, if my memory is serving?
And the finale, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, yes. At the very, very end. Yeah. So the just at the very beginning and very end, you were able to sit on the block and survive. And this is because this is a man after my own heart. You didn't win a single HOH. In my opinion, an HOH is good. It gives you safety, but you also going to get a lot of blood on your hands. And this leads me to my first question. Do you think winning an HOH does more net good to win or more net bad in the game of Big Brother?
It does more net good. You just have to make the right decisions. And I was in a season where people were frequently, sometimes due to my influence, making the wrong decision.
Sometimes, he says. Kevin, I'm not even... Kevin oftentimes convinced people to do things that were probably not in their best interests. And it was so fun to watch. And I feel like your castmates and a lot of people really underestimated you, but the entire time I was watching, I was like, no, this guy knows exactly what he is doing.
You know what? I think we all have a plan. And then the first week I got put up, like you said, and if anybody's listening to this, they're not a big Brother fan. If you're nominated for eviction in the first week, typically that's a death knell. You are likely losing the game, even if you don't go home that week.
You're going to be on the block a bunch of times if you survive.
And then I was like, screw it. I'm going to have a blast. I'm going to swing for the fences. I have nothing to lose at this point. And that kind of gave me the permission to just go out and do what I thought was right.
No, I love that. So this is my question for you. There are two very different, well, I guess 3, like you said, two at the end and one at the beginning. Which time were you more scared sitting on the block? Do you think like week 1 where you're like, oh my God, this could end so early? Or towards the end where you're like, I'm so close, like it can't end now?
I was pretty confident then that I was going to be sitting in the final 2. Like, so I was in danger at the final 4 and the final 3. Mm-hmm. I knew I was making it through each round, but the first week, especially having not played before, I always like this when you have a bunch of new people playing a reality show. No one has any idea what they're doing. And yeah, I had a bunch of people telling me I was safe the first week. The woman I was on the block with was bawling her eyes out because she'd sort of been told, like, you're going home. And I felt for her, but you never know. So I was terrified.
You never know. No, that makes sense. I got one last question, Big Brother, that we're going to jump on here. You're a big Twitter guy. Did you recognize Kyle Moore going into the house?
I did.
You did? That's so funny.
So I saw him and I was like, where do I know this guy from? Because it's also... the day you walk in, there's so much stimulation. The brightest lights you've ever seen. The Big Brother Canada houses are like decorated in wild ways.
Beautiful.
The 15 biggest personalities you've ever met in your life So I was like, I know this guy from somewhere. And then I got it and I wanted to use it as a way to bond. But before that, he told the whole house.
Yeah, I was gonna say he ended up telling everyone, but I had a feeling
yeah.
you would recognize it. I just because it was a big deal. This guy named Kyle Moore was like listed in the Big Brother cast, and people found him on Twitter. Oh, and it was the wrong Kyle Moore. But then what does Big Brother Canada do next season? They put the new Kyle Moore in the. It was wild. I was, it didn't work out probably as well as some people would have liked, but it was funny as hell to me. Let's get into it. Thanks for indulging me, Kevin. That's fun. So. I'm glad I picked a good movie for you because it was random. I reached out to you. I said, do you want to cover Pinocchio? And so you're a fan. Tell me a little bit about your love / you said sometimes not as much love of Guillermo Del Toro.
So I think I saw the first Hellboy when it came out. And then slowly as I got into film, like he was one of the people that I always enjoy I haven't seen every movie in his catalog, but like Pan's Labyrinth is one that stands out to me that I've seen over the years. How I view it changes over the years. I think I saw Shape of Water. So I have a very close connection to TIFF. TIFF is my time of year, the Toronto International Film Festival.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if he has a movie here, I'm seeing it. I believe I saw Shape of Water at the festival, if I'm not mistaken. I love Nightmare Alley. I don't think it got the love that it deserved. I love being duped into seeing Crimson Peak as if this is some sort of horror movie when really it was just a sad Tom Hiddleston for the entire movie. Like I love the man, and it's so personal to him. He had a touring museum.
I didn't know this.
It was called, so Guillermo has this, you're going to be going. So he has this house called the Bleak House that he lives in. And the Bleak House is named after the Charles Dickens book because he's obsessed with Victorian culture. And the Bleak House is packed with all of these monsters, lifelike images. He has like a 20-foot face of Frankenstein hanging, and they took the Bleak House on tour, and you had these props from the set, all sorts of interesting videos, a real life imitation of his rain room, which is where he writes, which is a simulated thunderstorm room with rain. It was incredible. And after I went to that, I love the guy.
I think I would love a rain room. I'm just now hearing it for the first time ever, but I think I could get a lot of work done in a rain room. That's amazing to me. Something you said that really stuck out to me was about Pan's Labyrinth, how when you watch the movie throughout the years, it changes sort of. And I think that is the sign of like a classic movie. When you watch it more than once and you're like, whoa, I took a whole new different meaning from this. And I have a feeling that this Pinocchio movie could be one of those. I saw Taylor Swift called it an instant classic. Not that, she's
Pinocchio?
a movie. Pinocchio
okay.
today. She did it today on her Instagram story. Said it was an instant classic.
Wow.
She'll never stop crying. And it's not like she's one to be like promoting all these movies and everything. So it must have really spoke to her.
Guillermo Del Toro, it's been announced, will direct a Dr. Frankenstein movie for Netflix, and Oscar Isaac is being eyed to star. So, pretty interesting development.
That's awesome.
This is announced? It was announced?
Yeah. I don't know.
Evan, you're breaking news here.
I don't know that
we do
Oscar
that
Isaac
sometimes.
is official, but he is
But
directing.
he's being slated to. Awesome. That's great. And I love, not me talking good about Netflix again. I love Netflix because I feel like they really give this guy the creativity. Like a lot of movie studios, I feel like do not want to put on a movie that took 2.5 years to make about a childhood story that they don't know is going to do well. But this, I'm not kidding. I don't want to, I sound very hyperbolic on this podcast all the time. This may have been the best new movie of the year that I've watched. I was so blown away. I went into it thinking I was going to like it, and I was absolutely floored. I have come to the conclusion, we recently covered Corpse's Bride. Guillermo del Toro is what Tim Burton thinks wants to be. But Guillermo del Toro is like walking the walk, baby.
Yeah. This movie was not just a couple of years in the making. He announced it in 2008. So this has been like a 15-year passion project for Guillermo del Toro.
And then it comes together and you have like Cate Blanchett playing a monkey,
I found this out maybe, I'm not kidding, 15 minutes ago. I was watching the credits and I go, who was Cate Blanchett? And I go, Spazzatura? Not Spazzatura. I go, what? How did I miss this? And I love Spazzatura. Like, oh my God, that's the show. The movie made me fall in love with an evil one-eyed monkey played by Cate Blanchett. It's great. It's great. Okay, let's obviously Pinocchio is a fairy tale that Disney classically popularized. When did the original Pinocchio come out? Does anyone know? I didn't do my homework.
Probably like the 40s. I don't know.
Yeah, long ass time ago.
But it was based off of a very old and scary Italian novel.
Oh, was the novel scary? See, this is news to me. That's cool.
I think all of these fairy tales that Disney like co-opted came from these screwed up, monstrous stories that they're like, yeah, this makes sense for children.
Like, this is kids material here.
Yeah.
I remember when Pinocchio turned into a donkey as a kid, that like actually terrified me. And I was so happy he didn't turn into a donkey in the new one.
Because there's this talk of like the twin film phenomena, Ants and Bugs Life coming out at the same time. No Strings Attached and whatever the other one was.
Just Friends.
And then literally two Pinocchio movies coming out in the same year. Guillermo Del Toro announced this back in 2008. Do you think Disney was just trying to cash in on it again? Like, well, it's like, can't let someone else make money off of this. Like,
well, they probably were trying to beat like that intellectual property deadline thing. I guess if he announced it in 2008, it's open material. But like, they want, Disney's always trying to stay relevant. That's like their whole jam. They're like, you're not going to be the only Pinocchio.
And I haven't seen this. This is just bravado. But by all accounts, the other Pinocchio is just horrendous. Like garbage. I haven't heard one person say anything complimentary.
I'm not going to lie. We're covering Pinocchio, and I forgot about it till you just mentioned it, Evan. And it had Tom Hanks.
So it got a 38% on Rotten Tomatoes. And for research purposes, I was like, just to compare, I'm going to watch this. And the first 20 minutes, no joke, is Tom Hanks mumbling to himself, walking around his little workshop, talking about his dead son. But it's not engaging or compelling. It's just like, it's like you're watching a sad community theater one-man show. Like it's pretty bad. And I turned it off, and then I just started rewatching Guillermo's Pinocchio. So no need to check it out. Absolutely not.
Good to know. So the highlight of this movie, or I don't know if it's the highlight, but it is stop motion. It's claymation. This is the most beautiful, well done stop motion I have ever seen in my life. Like if he wasn't telling us and giving us behind the scenes looks at it, I wouldn't believe him. I'd be like, nah, it's a computer, dog. I don't believe you.
Yeah. Just for clarification, it's stop motion, not claymation.
What? Oh, so I'm an idiot. What's the difference?
I mean, I think claymation is perhaps a form of stop motion.
Oh, okay.
You use clay. And this one, they are like mechanical puppets that you maneuver.
Gotcha. I just always equated the two as the same. Okay. Yeah. Okay, but yes, because I've seen him touring with the little Pinocchio puppet. I think it's so funny. I love it. It's so cute. He's getting pictures with him everywhere.
I think you make a really good point. Like, a lot of these characters should not have any kind of emotions associated with them.
Yes.
Ewan McGregor as the cricket. What's
Jiminy
his name?
Cricket. Sebastian J. Cricket.
Sebastian J. Cricket. You should not care about this cocky cricket at all. You shouldn't care. I mean, the puppet, obviously, you have to bring to life. What about even the Tilda Swinton characters, the sprites or whatever they are, Death and the other one?
Yeah.
To actually have those characters come to life is unbelievable.
Yeah,
it really is. They all have like such personalities. It's like a very and I'm sure this is what he would classify it as. It's like a super dark fairy tale. It really has that fairy tale feel to it, which is so good. And I know he's like a monster. He's like a monster movie guy. I think he nailed the monster movie vibe, but like Pinocchio is not like your typical monster. You know what I mean? He's a cute little boy, and he's like, "I want to go to school, Papa." But like, he is still in the world of the living, if you will, versus it was just a really cool take on such a classic story. Like, he included so many elements of the original story, but he really made it his own. It's during, and maybe the original story is, and I don't know this, but it takes place in wartime in Italy, which is also really weird. We're back to back in Italy wartime podcast unintentionally.
Post World War One, yeah.
Post World War One, really weird. We covered Porco Rosso, and a great movie. But we've been doing like stop motion movies. Well, I was like, we've been covering a lot of the same things, but this movie is, well, the wartime Italy is like a big part of it, but it is not like your typical wartime themes. You know what I mean? Like Porco Rosso was like war changes a man and like this was like just for the setting. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It was like
colors the film.
Colors
sure.
it. Yeah. He does go to an Italian war camp.
As a super soldier.
Yeah.
As
He was gonna
someone
be
who
Captain-
cannot be
Yeah.
killed.
Yeah. He was their Captain America. He literally was for a while.
It's like a Superman Red Sun situation.
Uh-huh.
That was so funny.
I was trying really hard to place Ron Perlman's voice. He was the Podesta, and I thought I had it. My first guess was the guy who plays like Carmine Falcone in The Dark Knight. That
Okay, I can hear it.
almost
No,
sounds the exact same. I was like, I got it dead to rights. Look it up. It's Ron Perlman. I'm like, fuck.
I
Okay,
had
that's
known
all
Ron
that.
Perlman was in it, but
Mhm.
this movie. So who plays Geppetto though? I guess I actually don't know that. Is
Walter Frey.
Walter
Okay.
Frey, yeah.
It is
David
Walter
Bradley is
Frey.
his name.
That's
Yeah.
He's,
crazy.
British Willie Nelson, if you're trying to conjure a mental image. That's what he looks like. Or what's the Harry Potter groundskeeper?
A Lannister.
Yeah.
He looks like the
Argus Filch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's his other popular one.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. He was phenomenal. For all intents and purposes, like Geppetto's the star. I think the cricket may have been my favorite, but the movie is about Geppetto. And I really loved that. I think it brought the human element that the story needed. Granted, I know Pinocchio's trying to be a real boy, but that was such like a minor detail almost, him trying to be a real boy. It wasn't like him literally searching for magic to like become flesh and bone. I love when he was like, no, I am a real boy with all the meaty bits. I was like, the writing was one amazing when it needed to be funny, but like bone chilling some of the time. Like, hold on. I wrote down one of these here, and now you guys are going to make me look it up. My notes are all over the place. I'm so sorry. Okay, it was, I think it was the cricket who said it, and it was, Geppetto lost Carlo during the Great War. They had been together only 10 years, but it was as if Carlo had taken the old man's life with him. What a way to describe the grief that Geppetto was going through.
Yeah. And that's such a beautiful intro with him and Carlo hanging out. And then, I don't know, I got, maybe this is just me inferring wrong, I got the vibe that is the Great War took him or whatever. I thought he died of an illness or something, not that he got bombed in a church.
Same. No, I wasn't expecting a literal bomb to be dropped on the plot of the movie.
Because Geppetto was working late.
Yep, because he was working late on and that was why. And I hate that the whole town was like, I can't believe you can't fix our Christ crucifixion. And it was like the trauma, this poor man, he goes here every Sunday. Like, let him grieve.
So in the press promotion and tour for this movie, I really admire Guillermo Del Toro's advocacy for animation as medium. It's not just a kid's genre. And he talks about the ability of young children to be able to grapple with these sorts of heavier, darker themes. And I'm not gonna lie, when Carlo gets bombed, I was like, damn, I don't know if I would show this to like a little kid.
What's the difference between that and Bambi getting shot?
Okay. And then
because-
I don't know. You're your 4-year-old in front of the screen. This kid just gets exploded.
Yeah.
And then Geppetto is just downing a bottle of booze in darkness with the thunder going on. Like,
Maybe
I don't
4
know.
is too little.
And then like later in the film, you know, when Pinocchio's
got
being
a
super
point.
playful with death, I was like, oh, yeah, maybe like 10 and up or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. I did have that thought though. I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
would I show this to a child? I don't know." We have a friend. His name's Michael O'Rear. He's got children, and I guarantee he's not showing this to any of them. So, this is a small note, but I really loved Carlo, and it's crazy that Carlo, you know, he's only in like the first 10 minutes, but he has this huge looming presence over the whole movie. Obviously, through the relationship of Pinocchio and Geppetto. Really nice touch by Guillermo. The original author of the creepy story, his name is actually Carlo. And so I thought that was
Oh, wow.
a nice little tidbit.
right.
Yeah. I guess I probably should have inferred this, but Carlo and Pinocchio are both voiced by the same voice actor, Gregory Mann, who does a
Are you ready for
phenomenal
this?
job as
I
well.
didn't catch it till the second time I watched it. First time, I thought they were different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this kid's incredible. Like, this should be the most annoying character to ever exist. He's so positive.
Yeah.
He's in fascist Italy. He's dancing around. He's getting in trouble. He doesn't listen to his dad for a second, but for some reason, he's unbelievably endearing and charming, and you feel for him.
Well, he also charms everyone he comes across. Like, you're so right. It's not just the audience. Like, everyone he meets besides, you know, the carnival worker, Christoph Waltz, really, like, loves him.
Like you said, Alex, earlier, is like this movie isn't really about Pinocchio becoming a real boy. It's more of his relationship with Geppetto, just this like father-son tale. And I was watching the Netflix featurette. It's like 30 minutes. It's pretty good. They talk about all the craftsmanship that went into it. But Guillermo at one point is like, at the end of the day, like most of my work is in some form about my relationship with my father, and that very much comes through in this movie.
They literally give us this line though through Jiminy Cricket, and I think I said it earlier. Sebastian J. Cricket was my favorite character, and I think there's part of that comes with being the narrator. I really liked his narration. He literally goes, "I went to bed that night writing of stories not of my own, but of imperfect fathers and imperfect sons." And I was like, "Wow!" What I think the rewatch, I like went from thinking this was like a fantastic movie to like an all-time movie. Like, usually a movie can exceed in like one or two things and people will consider it like a huge success. I really think this movie, like voice acting, the animation of it, the writing, everything had such care and detail to it that not only do we not see in most animated movies now, I don't see this sort of care like in most movies that I'm watching nowadays.
And I think a part of that is that this is, as the resident Guillermo Del Toro historian, this is all about him. Like, even the opening where Geppetto is creating Pinocchio, that's a direct Frankenstein allegory, right? He's just trying to build a real person. Growing up, he dealt with like kind of oppressive Catholicism in his life, GDT. He always felt like an other. So for there to be a little boy who's also a monster, that's everything that he cares about. That's his entire world. And he's always made these monsters into people, into humans. And that's the whole point of this, right?
You're giving me goosebumps.
It's not directly in, like, when we talk about the fascism in the movie, it's not, it gets made fun of a lot, but in the background, it's like Geppetto's in a really tough position where there's a moment where he's trying to explain to Pinocchio after he comes back to life how he owes all these people money and he has to do what the law says. And he's like, I'm actually just not going to get into it with you because it's unbelievably complicated. Plus, throughout all of this, the Podesta and the church are deeply intertwined with Volpe and his efforts there. Plus, never mind, Pinocchio basically gets crucified at the end of the movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of religious undertones. I didn't catch it until the second time again, but he's literally on the cross being burned at the stake. I was like, oh my God, the symbolism, and like none of it ever feels, I guess, and I'm not like super religious at all, but none of it ever feels in bad taste to me. It all feels strictly plot and story driven. It's like, well, like I said, there's just so many undertones of like the religious, the grief and the burden. They even like make such a point of like, what's a burden? Like, and I think that is part of where this magic comes in, is Pinocchio, his childlike wonder. He's a know-nothing audience. He's learning everything for the first time. And so Sebastian Cricket and Geppetto have to teach him everything.
I don't want to sound like a fascist Italy sympathizer, but like I think what this movie does well is that, like, yes, that's when this story is set, but it shows you this world where like people were living everyday lives. Like, people weren't all just like blanket evil, even though that's the political climate they were in. Now I do sound like a fascist sympathizer.
No,
I don't know.
I understand what you're saying.
I think that's what we mean when we say it. It sort of just colors the film a little bit. It's not necessarily like about Mussolini being
It's a
bad,
plot
even though
point.
he is. Yeah, it's a plot point.
But it's not about,
so.
That's not what the movie's about at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Mussolini is played by SpongeBob.
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't catch that. I love That's so funny.
I like puppets. I know like puppets.
Yeah, because I like puppets. I know I like this puppet. He literally starts making fun of poop, poop, poop. He's just a kid, but like, and that's where like I said, he charms everyone he comes across. Like at the end, where the point where like everyone is willing to give it all up for Pinocchio, and it's just it's his purity, it's his childlike wonder. It's, you know, he may not always do what he's told or do what's right, and sometimes he lies, but that doesn't make him any less lovable. Him not even being a real boy doesn't make Pinocchio any less lovable. Oh, it's so good. And since you brought up like Guillermo del Toro feeling like an other as a child, like the direct representation of him coming to terms with like, you can be all these things, not perfect, even made of fucking wood, and you still are worthy of love and family. Oh, the line. Oh my God. I'm just going. Okay, wait. So Jesus is up there. They just fixed him. And he goes, I don't get it, Papa. He goes, he's made of wood and everyone loves him. Why don't they like me? And I was like, oh my God. That's such a gut wrenching line. It's so, I was just like, it was hard to watch. It's good. It's so, oh my God.
Let's talk about the death character. This is what made, I mean, a little uneasy. I don't know. I love the exploration of death and like, I guess generally I believe in making the idea of death less scary to a younger person, but to be so playful with it. Yeah, this is just where I'm like, maybe.
You ever watch Adventure Time? They have like death is just like a chill bro who like, you know what I mean? Like I like a different representation of death. And I think this one, I didn't think death herself was like super playful. Like maybe her rabbits were, you know, they're playing poker. And the scene though, where he like first comes back to life there is so stunning. The rabbits, they're like singing and Pinocchio's like moving. They're like, I thought he was dead. They're like, I saw the paperwork. He is. Like, it's so good. And then they clock out. It's really well done. It's like very serious to me. What I took from it is it was like very serious and dark, but the playfulness kept it like not like actually terrifying.
Okay.
It's very, so you have these like weirdly Yiddish poker playing rabbits, which is not serious at all. And then you have Death, who's another authority figure in the film, trying to tell him what to do. And I think this is where it gets like really dark, is in other versions of Pinocchio, he becomes a real boy, right? He gets his skin and flesh and whatever and real heart that makes him a real boy. In this one, part of him becoming not technically a real boy, but he takes on death. He can now die at the end of the film after meeting with death 3 times. Show that to your 4-year-old.
You get it right. Okay, I think, but yeah, maybe 10 and up. I think this is a good movie for kids because I think death is scary. Who doesn't? And like, I think this is actually an easy and approachable way to bring up some of these things. And in a way that like Mufasa dying is how like many children first learn of death. Like this one to me, while dark and sinister, it kept it still light and cheery due to, in part because of Pinocchio's demeanor.
Yeah. I guess maybe it is thought-provoking in a way that makes me think of like, damn, this would spark a very a conversation that I would need to be very thoughtful about if I were having it with my kid. You know what I mean? And so in that way, I think it's very good, and I do enjoy it. And they're voiced by Tilda Swinton, you said?
Yeah, both of them.
The voice cast is awesome on this.
Stacked.
Stupid.
Yeah,
it's good. And a voice cast is important because you obviously big names are always fun, but some actors are better at voice acting than others.
Are you throwing shade?
Yeah, Chris Pratt. Just kidding.
No, I think he gets the right people for the job. Like having Cate Blanchett do a monkey is fucking crazy. But
to be fair, she does talk when she's doing the puppets. Like
she was I was wondering about that.
Yeah. She's the puppet voices, and I think she does the monkey noises too, though, which is wild. But like, good for her because like that's like such a role you would never have thought would be anything, but it became such an important part when Christoph Waltz plays the villain of the movie. The villain of the movie. He's a carnival owner who tricks Pinocchio into servitude and singing just the most beautiful opera song I've ever heard across Italy. So he is beating up Spazzatura. Also, you guys ready for this? So Spazzatura is the carnival workers like number 2. Spazzatura just means trash in Italian. Oh, how sad is that?
So sad.
Yeah. So it really dark. But then he's beating up Spazzatura because Spazzatura is jealous. Pinocchio's getting all the limelight, so starts telling Pinocchio the truth, though, like your papa's not getting any money, and which that was so hard to watch when Pinocchio's just staring out the window and he splits it in half and he's like, oh, but process, he like takes all his, and I was like, oh, Pinocchio, turn around, your business is going on. Okay, but when he's whooping Spazzatura with his cane and Pinocchio steps up and is like, stop, like, I won't have you treat my co-star like this. It's like all the imperfections, like it's Pinocchio's non-existent heart that is still like, it is the heartbeat of the whole movie. And it's moments like that where you're just like, like, I knew I loved Pinocchio for a reason. I knew I was rooting for Pinocchio.
I just saw this in the voice cast. The Black Rabbits in the Underworld are voiced by Tim Blake Nelson, who is the villain from Scooby-Doo 2.
Yeah.
Also Looking Glass in HBO's Watchmen.
We just watched that recently.
Yeah.
I love HBO's Watchmen. I think he does amazing in that. That's so funny. He's the voice of those. Great voice cast. Great. And then Finn Wolfhard is the main Nazi's son. His name's Candle.
He hit himself. He hit himself behind Candlewick. Like he was hard. It was hard to tell.
No. If I didn't see his name, correct. If I didn't see his name, I wouldn't have known it was his voice. Yeah. His son's name was Candlewick, and me and Nikki, we were watching today. Well, do you guys think that's symbolic? What kind of name is that?
I think Candlewick is like a Pinocchio character.
Gotcha. So it's from the source material.
Yeah, but I think Guillermo changed it to that story where he's like, I'm weak like the wick of a candle.
Yeah, okay. I did.
What kind of father? He comes out and the father's like, you are like a weak wick.
Yeah, it's so shitty. So his dad, literally class act, Ron Perlman, worst dad ever. But what's so funny is the kid's a bully to Pinocchio, makes him burn his legs. But on rewatch, he only is mean to Pinocchio when his dad is mean to him. It's like a direct, it is a direct, like his dad yells at him and then he like is like, oh, Pinocchio could be like the perfect, like super soldier. And then he's like, well, he never says that about me. And then he's like tricks Pinocchio to burn his legs. And so he's the bully. You sympathize for him. But then when they are at, I don't want to call this fascist camp. What is it, like Hitler's Youth?
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
I think it is, though.
It's an Italian military camp.
It's children's
for children.
Yeah, it's children military camp, and so Pinocchio and Candlewick go together. And the scene where he's arguing with him, but then he turns over and he's just in tears. Whoa, how powerful again! Like, you know, we're so used to in movies the evil villain or the bully who just bullies for the sake of bullying, but he like gave this minor bully character like such depth in such a short amount of time where I really felt for him. And then his dad obviously put a gun in front of him and was like, shoot your new friend.
And then the dad gets bombed. That was a pretty
a lot of bombing going on.
Yeah.
This middle sequence where they're at the youth camp kind of reminds me of Jojo Rabbit, where it's like you're just watching these, and they're laughing and they're enjoing themselves. And there's a lot to take in with this movie.
Yeah, good call.
I love
like
Jojo
Rabbit. Great film. I mean, when Candlewick and Pinocchio sort of coordinate their tie, it's kind of beautiful. It's very, very JoJo. It's just like, you know, kids having fun in the middle of war.
And the fucking dad goes, and how did you come to this conclusion? Shut up. Shut up. Kid, you saw them. They're having fun.
And you know what? Even back to their relationship with those two kids, when Pinocchio gets his feet lit on fire, his reaction isn't to, he apparently has no nerve endings down there. He's like, Papa, my feet are like chocolate. Yeah. They're hot.
Hot like chocolate. He's like, this is amazing. Yeah.
He loves hot chocolate. Hot chocolate is the way to get Pinocchio to do anything.
Which is so endearing. I don't know why. It's so endearing. Kids love sweets. But like you said, he has no nerve endings. There's 0% chance he's tasting this hot chocolate. Like, he just likes it because other people like it. It's his favorite thing now. But like like you said, he didn't care and his legs burned off. And I love it when his first night's sleep, his papa's like, oh, what a day, what a day. And Pinocchio's like, what a day, what a day. And then he doesn't have any legs. And then in the morning, he gets like the new shitty legs that literally look like they're just taped on. And he goes, I love my new legs, Papa. And it's like, oh, it's so cute. It's just, Pinocchio was literally every adorable kid I've ever seen, like molded into one.
Yeah, and he's not a smooth Pinocchio. Like, he
No.
wasn't made on HGTV.
Mm-hmm.
Geppetto was quite drunk. He left out some
There's nails
ear
in
or
his back.
whatever.
You're so right.
His nose, when it grows, gets all screwed up, and it makes him a lot more endearing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? While we're on this, let's go through the famous line Geppetto said, like, a lie, because he goes, a lie is as clear. I didn't write it down. I should have. Essentially, the line is, a lie is as plain to tell to everyone else except for yourself. That's why your nose ends up growing. Now, I wanted to challenge this because Kevin and I, we're pretty skilled liars, as we've seen from being on TV. And my nose is fine.
There's a time and a place for lying.
Yeah.
True. I really liked the line,
It's
though.
a theme in the movie too. Towards the end, it becomes useful at the end, and
Pinocchio
Geppetto's
uses
like,
it to
"This
get to
one
the final
time."
two and save his ally. Oh, it's great. That's so true.
Yeah.
There is a time and a place for lying. He uses it to get him out of that tight situation. That's awesome. I
Yeah.
didn't even think about that. But the line really resonated to me because, like, I'm sure we're trashing this Tom Hanks movie we've never seen, but I'm sure in the other one, it's just like, lying is bad. That's why your nose grows. Like, this one was like so much more thoughtful into like the reasoning. And like I said, like, while there was like little bits of magic, that wasn't the focus at all. The focus was really the human connection of all these people around Pinocchio and them dealing.
Yeah.
Even Sebastian had his own things going on. He wanted to be famous and fortunate. He was going to write his life story and everyone was going to read it. But by the end, he didn't care about any of that. He wasn't writing about himself anymore. He was writing about Geppetto and Pinocchio, and he was willing to give up his one wish for fame and fortune to bring Pinocchio back. A little wooden
Ball
boy.
my eyes out.
It's so good.
It's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful. Like I said, he's the narrator. He's supposed to be like this unbiased, like just retelling of the whole story, but he is so emotionally invested. It makes the story almost like 10 times better. And like I said, Spazzatura, the cricket, and Geppetto, three people that really did not care for Pinocchio at all, by the end of it, are all sobbing on the beach to the god of life. Like, please, I need this Pinocchio back in my life. And I love when she has her little poem, which I'm not going to be able to recite, when she gives Pinocchio life. And the first time she just does it alone, just the two of them with the cricket. But the second time she does it in front of Geppetto. And it's like, please bring this man joy each and every day. And Geppetto, the tears in his eye, it's art. It's just, it's pure art.
Yeah.
There's one scene towards the beginning where just like the craftsmanship of what they're able to communicate through the puppets is just incredible. It's when he's drunk by the tree, sobbing over Carlo, and like he has like individual strands of hair hanging loose as he's drunk and crying, and I've never seen that in stop motion.
No.
And it really captures the Guillermo Del Toro look, even though he's never done animation before. He's never done a stop motion thing. You can, like, just looking at the creature designs, it's got his signature all over it. And I think if you like his movies and his stuff, then you'll really enjoy this film as well.
We recently just covered Fantastic Mr. Fox, and similar, it has like that Wes Anderson style, but probably just due to its age, when you're looking at the foxes, sometimes a hair or two is out of actual framing and sequencing, and it's part of the charm of the movie, actually, is you're like, oh, wow, it really is stop motion. Like, that's so cool. Not once was anything out of place in this movie, like animation-wise. There wasn't a single hair that ever moved. It was so smooth and fluid. Like, I don't know I'd have the patience, granted, if I had learned how to do stop motion, I don't know I'd have the patience to make it that perfect. I mean, it's good enough. Wrap it.
In the feature, they were saying there's one shot that took like 3 months. I don't know if it's when Spazzatura is like coming down the steps and running into the circus for the first time and sort of introducing you to that set, but I cannot imagine spending a quarter of a year on like 5 seconds. I would go crazy.
What do you guys think about this was technically a musical.
Yes.
I know. I have thoughts.
The songs
I have a
didn't
lot
hit
of
for
notes
me,
on it.
I'll be honest.
You said the music didn't do it for you?
No.
Okay. I think the music, one, was never too long, which I think is important. There never was like a 5-minute showstopper type deal. Two, it was some of the most beautiful music. I'm not kidding. That song they sing with the montage where he's traveling Italy, Ciao Papa. It's one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard in my life. I really like Christopher Waltz's playful carnival song. Once again, didn't go on too long though. And the best bit is Jiminy Cricket being like, "My father," and then getting cut off for whatever
And
reason.
he gets murdered or something.
Yeah, that was so funny. The first time that happened, when they're like, he's like, "Pinocchio, let me tell you a lesson." And then I was like, "Oh, this is." While it's a musical, it's not taking itself too seriously as a musical. I really enjoyed it. Evan, that's funny. You're a music guy. What did you think, Kevin?
I'm still on the fence because at the same time, while everything was great, and I agree with you, there were no like full cast, there were no big numbers. It would be a minute or 2 minutes or under of singing. And it was almost a good way to create these little montages. I don't know that I'm ever turning on the soundtrack and listening to
I would listen
Nothing really got in my head.
I would do the one where he's like, "Farewell, Papa," and then "Ciao."
You want to listen to the Chow?
I
What,
do.
what
It's
mood are you in
I'm not
where you
kidding.
listen to the
I
Chow?
felt like I was
Papa?
transported to an Italian seaside, listening to Pinocchio do his war propaganda, and I loved it. I'm sorry. It was like an opera. Okay, maybe this is what I've like never been one where I was like, I want to see an opera. That was the first time in my life I was like, maybe I would enjoy the opera. That was beautiful.
I don't know. None of them were just like little earworms. They were, they were little songs. And I'll be honest, it kind of made me miss like a Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Don't you
And
dare, Evan. You've
I
been
get sick
trashing
of-
him all year. You literally, our first episode was in
But
Kanto.
he
You have
has
been
the
trashing
knack.
him all
He has
year.
the knack for a catchy tune. And I felt that was missing with these little tunes.
I'm screaming.
But, that's not what this movie is really meant to be.
I think that's important too. I think too much or many more music numbers in it becomes something different almost.
It works for what it is,
Yeah.
but it is not going to be on my end of year playlist.
Yeah.
It's making my Spotify rap next year.
Doesn't detract, doesn't add all that much, in my opinion. One thing that was interesting about the music that they did was the composer for the movie used only wooden instruments, so string instruments, like woodwind instruments. There's nothing else, and that's just to evoke the kind of quirky, because Pinocchio is made out of wood. So I thought that was kind of cool. One thing that occurred to me watching this movie twice, and then trying to watch the Disney one, is like, I don't know that I've ever actually seen all of the original 1940 Pinocchio. I mean, I know at the beginning he's a puppet
it's not
that
that
comes to life,
long.
and then he turns into a boy. So like, what?
He does get eaten by a whale in the 1940s one. Him and
So that does
Geppetto.
happen. Okay.
He, for some reason, turns into a donkey when he's trying to turn into a real boy somehow. That part's escaping me as to how or why or when.
Saying
But other
all
than that,
teen
I mean,
boys
it's
are
a very
jackasses.
yeah. Maybe he was being a jackass. Yeah. Wait, is it when he like tried liquor or something? The first one is almost nonsensical. If I'm being honest, there's like no through line. It's just Pinocchio doing things. If that makes sense.
We haven't talked much about the monster at the end, swallowing them
Yeah,
up. And
the big old
escape.
sea whale. Before we do that, I have a note here. Nikki pointed it out to me. Christopher Waltz's character, the carnival runner, has a very long nose. And it's because
Yeah.
this motherfucker is lying every chance he gets. And I was like, that's a nice little detail.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about this monster though. You're right. This is because this is from, I'm assuming, the original story, the 1940 movie. This is always like a through line. Pinocchio and Geppetto live inside this ginormous sea monster whale type thing. I was obsessed with Guillermo Del Toro's. Would you guys call it a whale? I think it's a whale, right? But like,
Something like that.
Leviathan.
ooh,
Give me Leviathan.
what a word! That's a great word.
Give me one of those.
I'm gonna call it that from now on because it had like a blowhole, but it was not like your typical whale blowhole at all. As a kid, though, being eaten by a whale did not scare me as much as being turned into a donkey. What is that about? I was like terrified of becoming a donkey, but like living inside a boat in a whale seemed like fine to me. And to be fair, they seem fine when they're in there. It's cool.
So this might be a stretch, but a lot of this is about living in this liminal world, right? Liminal being where you have 1 foot in each side. So Pinocchio is a puppet, but he's also a boy. You're like living inside of this monster. You're like totally removed from the world, but you're still between these two. I'm off. You're still between two states. I should have. You're between these two states of existence, right? And the way that he eventually, Pinocchio, on the way out, like beats the whale, is the war plays a role because there's this mine or something that's gotten into the whale's mouth. So it's almost like this beautiful way to tie it all together before he passes through the liminal space to become not a real boy, but a real human who can die. Thank you.
No. I really think you were onto something here. The whale is such a metaphor because while Pinocchio is fine being this wooden boy that's not a real boy, they're fine in the whale. You could be fine in the whale, but you still have this sense of danger, like, oh my God, I'm in a whale. They are in these two worlds. Like, I mean, there's no immediate danger here, but like, I know this is not safe, if that makes sense. And that's a little bit of what Pinocchio is doing. He's not thinking in terms of danger and safety, but that's the line he's towing. And literally he dies and he is like, I need to go back now. And the god of death is like, there's rules. You have to wait this whole time. And then she tricks him. She totally tricks him. She's like, I mean, if you want to break the rules, you can. This will be your last time. Because I think she's tired of him. This is a totally unforeseen thing. She was like, I'm annoyed of this little wooden boy coming back to me every couple days. She's like,
had enough.
like, this is it. You're done. Last one. It was so good, though. And I think you actually hit like a very deep point on the head. Like him blowing the whale and himself up like in one is such like him transcending to become that real boy. But I almost hate saying that term because Pinocchio has made it sound so cheesy and like actually like the quest to become a real boy, but this is such like a metaphorical meaning of like what it means to be like a person.
I mean, we're in fascist Italy. Mussolini has just told his bodyguard to kill this little kid. Humans are the monsters in this universe. It's not Pinocchio, as afraid as everybody is. What gives he has humanity almost the entire time. So I love that he doesn't become one of them. I mean, the same thing with Sebastian, the same thing with Spazzatura. Like their journeys are as emotional as any others in the film. Plus, we have 3 or 4 or 5 different adult human villains. So being human isn't necessarily the desired thing.
You're so right. The humans are the villain here, even though Pinocchio is the monster. That is a Guillermo Del Toro thing. Say that's kind of Shape of Water-esque. I always say anytime we come on here and I am learning things or still able to like connect dots, like that's the sign of something that's a real thinker. And so like, I think he took such a well-known story, but he really extrapolated. He took down to the essence, like, what is this story about? And he's like, Pinocchio wants to be human because he's different. But it's like, what does it mean to be human? And so he explores so many different sides of humanity. Geppetto's grief, the evil humans, if you will, the ones that'll do evil things. And it's all like, oh my God. And you said this earlier. It's another authority figure telling Pinocchio what to do. That's what so many of these people are is he wants to be a real boy for Geppetto. And the freaking Ron Perlman, he goes, you're going to be a real Italian boy. And I was like, oh, that's a cool spin on like the motto. It's all these authority figures telling him what to do. And Death was really the first one who like gave him an option. Was like, oh, okay, you don't want to continue this cycle of dying and living again? You can break the rules, but you know, then you're going to be a real boy. You'll be a real human. Oh, and that's what he chose because it was his decision finally. I'm going to go save Papa.
You're making me want to watch this again.
I may watch it again this next weekend over Christmas. Oh, I got to watch Glass Onion too, but I got movies I got to watch.
It's good.
I'm excited. Did you see it already?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I saw it.
So excited. I'm a Netflix baby.
Would you rate it equal, above, lower than
The last one?
Knives Out?
The first one.
I would rate it above.
That's good.
But the reason is because it's very sequel.
Oh,
okay.
So I mean, it doesn't other than Benoit Blanc, it doesn't follow up anything from the first film, but it's just bigger and larger and a scale up that you would expect.
It's Shrek 2.
Awesome.
All right.
That is
I love
exciting. One thing I'm seeing on the Wikipedia right now, screenplay is co-written by Del Toro himself and Patrick McHale, who created Over the Garden Wall, another series that explores death and its consequences.
Way. He's the co-writer with Del Toro?
wrote the screenplay with it.
You got to check this out.
it-
Not a well-known Cartoon Network show from like 2013, 14.
Okay.
It's called Over the Garden Wall. It's just 10 episodes. Elijah Wood is the star. I promise you're going to love it. That's crazy that he's the co-writer, but that makes so much more sense actually. Because it's
Well, you mentioned Adventure Time earlier, isn't he?
he
He's
is
an
on Adventure Time
writer
too.
as
Yeah,
well, right?
yep.
Yep.
I love it. I love that era of Cartoon Network. So that is that's so cool. That's exciting. And that makes sense to me because one, a lot of similar themes, but two, just that creepy monster story, a horror story, but about like real human shit. Oh, damn, this is so good. Okay, let's do we got a couple wrap up things. We'll go through closing thoughts, and then me and Evan we do a couple letterbox reviews, and then we'll wrap up with news here, and we can call this a day. But let's go through. We're gonna go through our closing thoughts, last thoughts, anything, favorite scene, moment, line. Now is your last chance. Evan, you want to start us off, and then I'll go next.
Yeah, I really enjoy the craftsmanship that goes into this movie. I love Guillermo del Toro's enthusiasm about it. I'll be honest, I think I just am not the right demographic to be really enthralled with this movie. I can appreciate it for what it is. I'm not rushing back to watch it again. I would probably give it a 4 out of 5 stars just because, this is a thoroughly great watch. You two have given me a lot to think about, talking about this liminal space. And Alex, what you were just saying about how it's sort of a play on the typical be a real boy thing. It's like his path to personhood isn't about any one thing or authority figure telling him what to do, but it's about choosing your own path. It's about autonomy, and like that's really what it is and what it means to be human. It's a delight visually just to take in. You could just stare at the puppets and the settings and the artwork for so long. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I have enjoyed covering it, and you guys have left me with a lot to think about.
I know I said I'd go next. Kevin, do you have your final thoughts, or you want me to go first?
I have my final
for it.
thoughts. Sure. So I think one of the things that hasn't come up for us as much is also how much fun this is. It's really, amidst all these dark and deep themes, it's a really, really fun movie. There's some really cute stuff. For example, he signs a contract that ends up being a major plot point with a smile.
Yeah.
Like that's his literacy. I think after talking it through, I love that we could all learn different parts from each other because the movie has so much depth. I would show this to a kid. Of course, it's not your typical fun, smiling, bright kids film, but it is something that I think there's value in. I think it's a great piece of art. I have it at a 4.5 out of 5. Something stopping it from being like a top tier film for me, but also I'm going to come back to it. And I think it's a blast, and it changed my Pinocchio narrative. I've never been like, oh, Pinocchio, great story. Now I look at Pinocchio different.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Well said. My final thoughts here. I come on here, like Kevin said, this was a ton of fun. I laughed, but rarely do I leave something watching it once, then twice again, being like, what a phenomenal piece of art. From start to finish, I think the dialogue, it's so beautifully animated. The fact, even just like the tiny details of Carlo being the son and the original author's name, I'm also just now connecting. I kept calling it claymation. They're puppets. And that's what the movie is all about, is puppets and Pinocchio not wanting to be a puppet for other people. And like, he is a literal puppet. It's just like, I'm all about when these Guillermo del Toro really took a stance after the Oscars incident last year, where like animation is not just for children. And he came out swinging to be like, let me show you why. I can make a story that is 10 times more beautiful than any rom-com, whatever have you. Like, this has so much more time, thought, effort put into it than 9 out of 10 movies that you will see this year. And it just...
Including a live action Pinocchio.
100%. And I think you hit the nail on the head, where I've never been one to be like, oh, Pinocchio, my favorite Disney story, or like, I know Pinocchio. I think I like Pinocchio and Shrek. Like, that's my favorite Pinocchio. And now it's this one because of his beautiful opera singing voice and just his childlike wonder. And to Kevin's point, when he signs the contract, the plot point is like, you can't prove that's his signature. And he just goes, look, I drew that. And then it's legally binding. So it's really fun. I laughed a ton. I cried. I won't lie to you, gentlemen. I cried. I teared up. It was so moving to me at the end when they are all literally wishing Pinocchio back to life. Sebastian gave up fame, fortune, his book deal, everything, just so so the four of them could live together. The scene where he's walking at the end and they slowly one by one die, but Pinocchio doesn't. He lives on.
It's like Rogue One. They all die at the end.
It's so, get out of here. It's so good. Don't take away from my beautiful ending.
No, it's great. I really appreciate that.
The 6 Feet Under series finale.
And he buried Pinocchio doesn't know Carlo, but he buried them all next to Carlo. It's just it's so beautiful.
Sweet.
And he keeps Jiminy Cricket in his heart in a matchbox. And tiny detail, the matchbox had one of those rabbits of death on it. It's the tiny details are shit that I appreciate. Okay, I'm not even ready for these letterbox reviews. I'm pulling them up as we speak. Okay, I'm ready. Are you ready, Evan?
Yeah.
Okay, I got the first one at the very top here. I think it's just great. We got to acknowledge it. 4 stars. All rise for the anti-fascist Pinocchio. Got to respect it. It's in an important time too. I didn't give my rating, but I think this is unfortunately 3 weeks in a row I'm giving a 5 out of 5. I fucking love this movie. I'm sorry.
Scale.
I'm a terrible critic.
that.
I'll break the rules. Okay, wait, no, I'll be Pinocchio. I'm going to give it a 5.5 out of 5 just to differentiate it from the other.
Fair. All right.
Okay, sorry.
A lot of these that I find funny are just throwing shade at Disney or Robert Zemeckis, who I think directed that rendition. But 5 stars, Disney on Suicide Watch.
I mean, this is 4 stars. It's simple, but it just says good, clean fun. And I think that gets back to kind of what Kevin was saying is this was a ton of fun. We really overlooked that, but it was a blast.
Here, let me come in with a 4.5.
Oh my God, no.
I got my letterbox open.
Okay, you're our first guest to give us one. Read it. What do you got?
Life is filled with such terrible joy. What happens, and then we are gone.
That's thankful.
It's appreciating those small things. You're
100%. And that's the line. He goes, did Pinocchio, Tilda Swinton goes, did Pinocchio bring you joy? He goes, yes, terrible, terrible joy. And it's like, whoa, that's so Guillermo Del Toro.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. Oh my God. That's how I felt about this movie is it had that flavor of like melancholy, that terrible, terrible joy I felt. Great. So fucking. Oh my God. I swear I did not see this before. 4 stars, easily the best take on Pinocchio since Shrek 2, 2004. Can't make this up. I'm not the only one.
Yeah. You guys have convinced me. I'm going to be showing this to my future kids right out of the womb.
Yeah.
He's sad.
Yeah.
Enjoy life's terrible, terrible joy.
Yeah.
And this one says 4 stars. I'd rather be a pine than a fascist. That's so funny because that's a direct reference to Porco Rossio from last week.
And you know what? And he did grow him out of the pine that was left behind after he got.
He did.
Here's one from this is a Disney chirp. Disney's 2022 Pinocchio. Pinocchio plays with a pile of horse shit on the street whilst being chased by the fox and the cat. Guillermo Del Toro's 2022 Pinocchio. Pinocchio is tied to a cross after being drafted as a child soldier.
Okay, when you put it like that, it sounds way more dark than it is. But no, that is literally what happens. And the Spazzatura had to come and save him. That was so cute. Oh, God. I don't think there was, this is the other thing. I don't think there was a scene where I was like, this wasn't needed. I think every scene literally felt important. Even the music.
I felt like either the circus or the youth. I think the youth camp is probably the more poignant sequence, but this movie was a little long for me. I felt like one of those two, have them go away to one place. But
okay,
I
will accept that. I think that is. I think that's good on Letterboxd reviews. Let's wrap up here with some news, some just general news. I feel like there's been a ton of news. Am I wrong in that, Evan?
A lot of things, a lot of developments that we personally care about on this podcast. Kevin, I have a question for you. Do you care whatsoever for any for superhero movies or DC movies specifically?
So I'm a DC fanboy more than anything else, which
You're
has
in the right
become
spot,
tough
Ben.
over
We're
the
struggling right
past
now.
10
Though.
years.
If you've been
we gotta
watching
stick
the
together.
It's
news,
really bad. It's really terrible. And I mean, on the superhero side, I kind of hated Phase 4 from Marvel.
you're on the right podcast, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay, I found a lot of it like it was adequate, but nothing
Repetitive.
Nothing
It
was.
felt similar.
Although Eternals, I don't know if that's part of Phase 4, but I Eternals is a film. That's a film.
You are in the right podcast. We feel like
Okay.
people
right.
try to gaslight us and tell us it's the worst Marvel movie of all time, and we're like, is it not one of the best Marvel movies?
Yeah.
It's one of the most unique for sure by one of the most talented living directors.
My man. Yes.
God.
Okay. But so DC, I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off. They announced Henry Cavill's no longer Superman. Oh, okay. It's rough literally only because he was in a movie a month ago. We didn't think he was coming back. No one had expectations he was coming back until we saw him come back.
And because they told him to announce he was coming back.
Yeah, I know. Ugh.
Yeah. It is unfortunate that he's leaving the role. I think he's perfect in the role. He's had a bunch of shitty movies in the role. And I just feel bad for his career. He's been in this weird holding pattern with DC for almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
But I do think it's time to let the DCEU, the Snyderverse go. That
Snyderverse is done. They even said Gail is
open-minded.
no longer in the Flash. She was supposed to be in the Flash movie. That's okay. I guess this is probably so. I think I could accept the DC, the Snyderverse being done. How are they still releasing Flash? What is going on? How, with all the shit Ezra Miller has gotten himself into, you cannot tell me this is like top of their priority. That's, I think, where I'm still just so shocked.
I have no idea. I mean, you throw so much money at something,
Yeah.
I feel like they're just gonna ignore everything else. Like how is
No, you're so right. You put so much
It's
time and money
absurd.
into it, they just can't. I also am now imagining this is probably going to reboot their whole universe, the Flash movie.
I trust James
do
Gunn.
too.
I think he's an amazing creator. I trusted him. I do really feel bad for Sasha Cale, I think her name is, Supergirl. She got her big break. Like, I don't know if you watched that video where they told her on a Zoom she's so happy. I feel really bad.
I do too.
Yeah.
It's really brutal for anyone that was involved in the Flash besides Ezra Miller.
And like Michael Keaton, like whatever.
I love
fine.
Michael Keaton, so that's like a bummer, but like he'll be fine without this. So
He's
he'll be
okay.
good. Oh, you know what? I don't know why Michael Keaton makes me think of this. This movie is already up for a Golden Globe for the song that I fucking love. So that was on my notes too. Yeah. So
Nice.
I'm not gonna say it for a 17th time.
They're about
but,
to have that little boy on stage singing that.
They're gonna
Like
actually
little
tour
puppets.
around with him.
This seems particularly egregious. Award season, coming around the corner. Disney is submitting Thor: Love and Thunder for Oscar consideration for Best Picture and Best Director.
Okay.
The movie middling to bad, that's fine. But the audacity to then submit it for Best Picture, come on,
Yeah.
like be serious
that's-
a little bit.
That's just absolutely appalling. Other news, is it out already? Maybe not. Puss in Boots, the new Puss in Boots movie got glowing reviews like across the board.
98% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah.
Everyone
Really?
that I know has personally seen it, or like critics, is like best Shrek since Shrek 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Wow.
I saw a tweet that was like,
Whoa.
it's like the Logan of the Shrek universe. And so I'm personally very intrigued.
That does interest me. Maybe we'll cover it. That's wild to hear, though. So if you have any interest in that, you go check it out. I think it is already out, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
While we're jumping back to DCEU, apparently Wonder Woman 3, the Steve Trevor was going to come back for a second time to life.
No.
So it was funny because the news was like, Wonder Woman 3's been scrapped, and everyone was up in arms. And then like 2 days later, it was like, here's the plot. And I was like, oh, maybe that was an okay call.
I had really enjoyed the first
Same.
one. The second one was not great, but also really nice. I think it was like one of the first. if I'm remembering right, it was an early pandemic.
You're right.
Like it was one of the first to be released on video
Yeah.
on demand as part of theatrically. I was very excited just to have a movie, but it was
Yeah.
still bad.
The first one though, amazing. Like
Amazing.
it was back when I was like, no, guys, the DCEU is still, we have hope. Look at these movies, guys.
Yeah.
So, no, I love Gail. I think she's just an amazing Wonder Woman. I think she like really embodies everything I envisioned from a Wonder Woman. So that's also rough if we are losing her. But yeah, I just thought that was funny. And what other news you got, Evan? I think the good one here is the Frankenstein one that you did at the top of the hour.
Yeah, this one, Hayao Miyazaki's next and potentially final film, How Do You Live, is announced. It's based on a novel that follows a boy who goes on a journey to discover spiritual growth, poverty, and the meaning of life with the help of his uncle.
That's good. You like any Studio Ghibli film, Kevin?
I haven't seen a lot, but all the like 5 that I've seen, I adore.
So that's actually similar to how I am. I'm now, because of the podcast, watching more and more, but when we started, it was really just like Spirited Away. So that's crazy. No, that's good though. That not good that it's his final film, but I always respect, I guess, when someone knows they're kind of done. And that sounds bad to say, but like, it's how I feel about a TV show. I like when it ends on its own terms more so.
Yeah, but then you have like Tarantino resisting making his final film, and he'll go and make a 12-episode
You got a
miniseries
good
or something instead.
Yeah, I appreciate that a director or an artist who can retire. Like I don't know, maybe if it's the climate of media that we're in, but like there's like Indiana Jones 5 coming out, and Harrison Ford's going to be there. I'm like, let this man rest. He doesn't have to be. He doesn't need to be running around doing stunts.
So
Literally survived the plane crash on Star Wars. Like let him sail off.
you don't think it was his idea?
I don't know. Maybe it was. I don't think it was. I think he was on board for it, but I don't think he went to Disney pitching.
That said, if we're talking about people overextending their welcome, keep Steven Spielberg's name out of your mouths, because Fableman is one of my favorites here. I
All right.
Well,
let's get into this real quick. I saw it, and I'll be honest, it was not my favorite of the year. What was so? What did you love about it so much?
It could so easily have been totally self-aggrandizing, all about him. But the fact that this filmmaker who has such precision took on an actually personal story for the first time, really in detail, just hit me. Like when the kid is making his films, it's the most beautiful. It's such an amazing sequence.
Those are the best parts of the movie to me, were when he was doing all the practical effects, making those movies as a kid with his friends and all that. That was really fun. That was good. But, you know, the ending kind of lost me. Not like the second half, I'd say, in all honesty. I started to be like, where's this going? And I guess I got to remember it's real life. Not everything has like a plot and a climax. Like he was more so telling a story. But and you know, it didn't help. I saw it like very, very late at night, which is not good for me. I'm an early to bed type guy. But I came out of it and everyone else was like, I loved it. And I was like, oh, I liked it. It had like really good moments, but overall it was not my best.
It's okay to be wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
That's fair.
That's funny. No, but well, I love Steven Spielberg. That's why I went and saw it. I was like, I absolutely love him. But I thought the weird thing too was I almost didn't know about the movie until like 2 weeks before it came out. I feel like I saw no press about it.
Yeah, I haven't seen
and
a
still,
lot.
I still don't see a lot of press about it. But
because James Cameron is soaking up all the press right now, talking about.
I think James
go
Cameron.
To the bathroom.
I've determined James Cameron, with all these headlines, is just trying to say crazy things to get in more headlines.
Yeah, have you seen?
No, not yet. We are gonna go see it. We have mixed feelings on it though. So I think I saw it. You saw it. Was it yesterday? 2 days ago? Give us your thoughts. Give us the insider. Yeah.
My spoiler-free thoughts are: if you liked the first one, then you'll really like this one. It's bigger, more beautiful, takes filmmaking to the next level. Slightly better character and plot, but still not.
That's important to me. I'm a plot guy, and so I'm coming in with a critical eye. I love some of James Cameron's movies. I love like Terminator, Titanic. How can you like not love those? I am always in the camp that I liked Avatar back in the day, but then all of a sudden everyone was like, "Oh yeah, no, best movie I've ever seen," and I was like, "Well, hold on, guys, it was a good movie. Like, what? How are we 10 years later now at it's the best, most amazing thing ever?"
Yeah, just know what you're getting into. I would say if you can find a theater that's showing it in the highest frame rate, it's worthwhile. And
my
IMAX
friend
too.
Michael O'Rear, we name dropped him twice now. He said you have to see it in IMAX. He said it just would be a disservice not to. We're gonna go see it. We are. It's just we're dragging our feet at the moment.
One more story.
Okay.
A follow up on our Henry Cavill story. So went through his whole debacle with Warner Brothers. He's out as Superman, out at Netflix as The Witcher, but it is announced that he's attached to produce a live action Warhammer series. So he's got some work ahead of him. I think he's going to develop it with Amazon. So they got tons of money in the bank. So he's got
the number one streaming service now.
I just hope something comes, he gets something for the past decade of his life that he's...
It's wild The Witcher's now gone from him. We were very much like, oh, I'm glad he's got this. We know he loves it. Now he's not even doing that anymore.
Well, it seemed like he might have left The Witcher to do Superman.
That's what it felt like.
That's horrible. That's like straight out of like Big Brother or Survivor, though. Like, I'm ditching my old alliance, and then your new alliance just turns on you, and it's like, no.
Yeah, they're just and then all of a sudden, Hemsworth has just taken over your life.
Before we wrap up, this is going to be our last episode of the year. Thank you again for coming on. Of everything you have watched that is maybe a 2022 release, what would you give a lump of coal? And what would you give? Is fruit the opposite of that in like a gift, a present, in like the actual Santa Claus lore? Isn't it? Is it fruit?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. Let me actually grab the
No, you're good.
The first one that comes to mind is and this is, it's just a fact. Everything Everywhere All at Once is just, you can still make original films that carry something incredible. The lump of coal. The lump of coal is going to Spirited. That you want to talk about movies where the music is just and it's, I think it's the Dear Evan Hansen guys who make incredible films. That movie was just so it was really bad. And then you know what? Let me throw in another positive too. If you haven't seen Marcel the Shell with Shoes On,
great choice.
It's really sweet. It's really beautiful.
I'm the only one who's behind.
You gotta watch it, Alex.
I know. Damn. I because when like even just hearing the voice in the trailer, I got like nostalgia. I was like, oh my God, I forgot like all about this. I used to watch so much of this little shell on YouTube.
Yeah, it's really well done, and I don't think a lot of people saw it. I went to a showing there, 4 people.
I'm gonna have to check.
And it was
That's my bad. That's my bad. It's great. I love the voice actor too, Jenny. She does a lot of great stuff. For me, I'm gonna go with, I don't want to just copy you, but I think like my prime gift would probably be Everything Everywhere All at Once. That, like you said, restored my faith in like intellectual property. People can still write original stories. Damn, I'm like really struggling now. It would be Pinocchio or that. I genuinely think those were the two best films I saw this year that were new releases. The worst movie I saw this year, shoot, was this a 2022 release? It might have been like a December 2021. Had to have been. Hopefully this is, it's probably a hot take. I think it won a lot of awards. Power of the Dog. I could have fallen asleep through it. The ending was good. The ending, I like, as much as I did not enjoy the first whatever of it, the ending I was a little captivated, but like most of it, I was just like, oh my God, where is this going? So I would say that's going to be my lump of coal for the year.
Well, that is a hot take.
I had a feeling it would be. I know a lot of people love that movie. The problem is I love every actor in it. I was like, these are my people. And it didn't connect with me. When I think Western, I was thinking like cowboys and guns shooting. And I don't even know there was one gunshot ever.
It's a very slow.
It is a slow burn. It's a slow burn. And maybe it was my expectations. That's totally possible. I've done that to myself before, but it didn't connect with me.
I'm realizing now that in 2023, maybe this is a resolution. I need to get out to the theater to see more than a comic book fair. But I am going to give the Batman
I knew it.
My present.
It was so good. I thought
my lump of coal, I will actually give to something we watched on the podcast, to Apple TV Plus's Luck, because that movie
it was
was
so
shit.
bad I forgot about it.
Mm-hmm.
You see, Kevin's never even heard of it. Don't watch. It was
watch it.
Who was the guy? Lasseter, John Lasseter's first non-Pixar
Oh.
animated movie on Apple TV,
Yes, yeah,
and it was so bad.
yeah.
It was so. To be fair,
That's
though,
so sad.
it is probably actually our most listened to episode of the year, which is so funny.
On the note of Batman, that was the first film I watched after Big Brother, and I mean I adored it. And there's no actual objectivity though, because you could have shown me Spirit
And you would have been
and
like,
I would have been like,
"Yeah,
that's
movie."
amazing. But it was the I mean, you want to talk about cinematography, that's nothing that the Snyderverse ever
That's
got
true.
close to. I'm
It's
sorry.
true.
And I like the Batman versus Superman extended cut.
Yes,
Like,
Kevin. Oh, my lord. We
You're
see the
after
same
our
thing.
own
We're like,
hearts.
it's not awful if you watch the extended cut. We're like such defenders of it. We're like the 4-hour Zack Snyder Justice League is so good. You just have to sit through 4 hours.
Yeah.
So no, we like the Snyderverse, but I would agree with you. I think the Batman was better than anything we saw in the Snyderverse.
Yeah.
I mean, Matt Reeves is
Amazing.
also just
Amazing.
And I don't want to say I was skeptical of Robert Pattinson, but I just was like, interesting. Robert Pattinson, he nailed it. He literally, and it was a different Batman, and it was so, I just appreciated it so much.
Have you read his? I think it's Vanity Fair. They
I
did
don't think so.
what's
Like
it called?
actor on actor interview.
Yeah, no, they
Oh,
did a profile of him, and it is one of the most wild profiles I've ever read. I think it's performance art on his end.
I'm gonna check it out now.
I don't even want to spoil it. I think it's Vanity. It's spectacular.
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna check it out. Okay, I'm gonna wrap us up here. But now that we're at the end of the podcast, I got one last question for you, Kevin. Big Brother related.
Yeah.
If there's another All-Star season, who do you not want to see out there? No one's listening. We're at the end of the podcast. Who are you scared of?
So let me preface this with I would love to go back. I would also love if it was down the line, just 5 or 6 years from now. I think what made me okay at the game was that I had certain life experiences that applied. I don't want to go in as the same person I was going in last time. Like I don't. It's also a really intense thing, and taking 3 months off. I'd rather be a few years in. I don't want to see anyone who. It's hard. It would be hard for anybody for my season.
That's what I was wondering. Is there anyone?
If they are, and I have a personal relationship with, it's either going to be, okay, this person is someone that I can't turn on because I don't know.
It becomes new.
What if I invite somebody to their what if I've met
totally
parents
different now.
or their kids or something like that? That's a totally different dynamic, and very likely, as cutthroat and whatever as I am, I wouldn't be able to do anything to them. And the other side is like anyone who I've become friends with through the community or whatever. Those are complicated.
No, it's a great answer.
It would scare me.
That makes a ton of sense. And that is really astute because 5-6 years down the road, these people are going to have been in your life for a long time now, like you said. So congrats on your engagement this year too. That obviously was a big thing in the Big Brother house. Awesome. So I love that shit. Well, my favorite moment, and this is my last Big Brother question. My favorite moment of yours is obviously I think when you had to fake quit and just how like everyone was. I mean, you fooled them, most of them. You fooled most of them, but like they were very upset by you leaving, like very, very upset. Whereas like me, the game player, I'd be like, dang, Kevin, don't go. I'd be like, one less person though. That's my favorite moment. What was your favorite moment? Take out winning, like the winning moment.
It was the gummy bear draw.
Oh,
so what happened
Tell him,
was
he'll love this.
We had a week where the HOH nominates 2 people for eviction. There was also a twist. There were 8 people left in the game at the time. There's an alliance of 5 that the HOH is in, an alliance that I wasn't very committed to. And the HOH nominates 2 people outside from the alliance. Usually this is fine. Like,
happens.
You nominate someone, the votes are there, we'll save them. I really wanted to get out someone from my own alliance that week. So we're all going back and forth. I swear on my fake marriage. We're all trying to maneuver it so he puts up somebody else. And then an hour before the ceremony, he brings everybody up into his room and he says, I still haven't decided. And in my head, I'm like, what? He makes us all swear that we're committed. He goes and grabs this canister, and in the canister are 4 gummy bears, 3 yellow and 1 red. The person who pulls out the red is the pawn. Okay. So we all go around, and then the guy, he asks this one guy who he'd screwed over a couple times before, do you want to be a part of this? Like, you don't have to be. And the guy's like, yeah, I do. That guy pulls out the red gummy bear, and this guy was a smart dude, like very in shape, likely could have made a run at the end of the game, had all the features you look for in your typical Big Brother winner. He pulled out the red, and then we voted him out that week.
The red gummy bear sent him home, aka Kevin Jacobs. You're so right. That is probably one of the most epic. That shit had me on the edge of my seat. And obviously, as an American, I watch a little behind. So someone was like, let me know when you watch this episode. And I was like, oh, okay, something's going to happen. And so, that was like great ATV in my opinion.
You usually don't know, at least in my opinion, whether something is like okay or good or pretty good or how the season's being received or something like that. When that moment happened, immediately I'm in my head, I'm like, holy shit, this is incredible. Like, not just my game, I'm like, as a fan, as a viewer, holy shit, like.
That's great. Evan said it though. This, like I said, last podcast for the year for us, but seriously, thank you so much for coming on, Kevin. We threw this together not just earlier this week out of the blue, and so I'm really glad I reached out because, like I said, we taught you some things. You taught us a bunch of things. The best is all we can do. It's the Pinocchio lesson again. It's so good. But really, thank you so much for being here. Do you want to, before I wrap us up, tell people where to find you on social media?
I'm at Kevin Ted Jacobs on Twitter and
We're
Instagram.
gonna link it.
Twitter is the much better follow. Instagram is, as much as people want to hate on Twitter these days, I do too. But my content is a lot better.
He's great on Twitter. No, he's not lying. We'll link it as well for people so they can find it easy. But seriously, thank you again for coming. If you like this episode, we have a ton more episodes that you can find on Apple, Spotify, and also on YouTube now. Please go subscribe on YouTube. We're trying to get our YouTube subscribers up. And you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at 2dudeswatchcartoons. And if you're on Apple Podcast or Spotify, you can rate and review us. We're trying to get all those metrics down. We've been very lackadaisical about it. You guys keep us afloat, so thank you. But we're getting on it. 2023 is going to be a big year for us, and like I said, phenomenal movie. It's crazy that I think we ended on what could possibly have been my favorite movie of the year. But thank you all again.
You say that every week.
I'm so bad. No, okay, new movie. I know Fantastic Mr.
Okay.
Fox. I was like, oh, this is the best thing. Yeah, I'm bad about that. I can be. I'm excitable. I get excited. Okay.
Pinocchio.
Thank you guys again. Evan, wrap us up here.
That will do it for this episode of Two Dudes Watch Cartoons. Happy holidays. We will catch you in the new year.
Two dudes watch cartoons.